Where else would you rather be than right here, right now, tuning in to Bills Central Radio?
Buffalo Bills 2013, fresh new faces, each Emmanuel unseen, CJ in front of back, a strong on the tag, Stevie Johnson at receiver, makes us all believers, Mario Marcel, our D-line personnel, Bird and Gilmore, better shut the door, but they need the 12th man, and that's every single fan, so this is a network to listen to the expert, it's Bills Mafia, Chris Brown and Dale Reid, week in, week out, satisfaction guaranteed, every time out a new guest on the show, putting on for the fans of Buffalo, no subscription, this is for free, it's Bills Central Radio on PFC.
This is your host, Chris Brown, on Bills Central Radio. Adele is currently unavailable at the moment, but will join us later today in the show. We have a great show lined up for you this week. We have a couple of guests on the show. First guest we'll have on the show is Russ Goldman. He's a blogger for PassFans.com. And also we will have the newly touted Buffalo Bills reporter for ESPN.com, Mike Rodak, is going to join us later in the show as well. So we'll get right into it. We'll go to the dark side, so to speak, and talk a little bit about the Bills and Patriots situation. And we have Russ Goldman on the line. Thanks for taking the time and joining us today on Bills Central Radio, Russ.
Thanks for having me on, Chris.
Not a problem. Anytime. First off, Russ, let's have you tell the fans that are listening a little bit about yourself and how you became a blogger for PassFans.com.
Sure. I've been blogging for PassFans.com. I want to say that I'm going on my fourth season, and it's something that I've always wanted to do and was given the opportunity to write about the Patriots. I've been a fan since 1974, so I've been a Patriots fan for a very long time, and started doing the blogging for a couple seasons, and then started to think about doing my own internet radio show, which I do now have, called Patriots 4th and 2, which I do with two other co-hosts. And listen, it's something that we do each and every week, and we try to bring a fan's perspective to the Patriots, and something that I really enjoy doing.
Nice. It's fantastic. It's always good to see a fan's perspective, so to speak, because some of those fans out there don't get their opinions heard as much as they would like, for sure.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, okay. We'll talk a little bit about the Patriots here to start. From, with what you've seen going on through the off season, it's kind of been a turmoil off season for Patriots front office and the situations with a couple of players that have been going on there. With training camp and now we're completion of the first preseason game, what do you like from what you've seen for the Patriots so far?
Well, I've been at training camp to 5 sessions, and I have to tell you that I am encouraged by what I've seen on both sides of the ball, but especially the offensive side. I'm more geared to the Patriots on the defensive side, but people have been asking about the offense. And what I will tell you is that the new receivers that they have brought in, and there have been so many of them, have surprised me because one of the issues that the Patriots have had over the years has been developing young receivers. And the Patriots now have 3 of them, and I can tell you that I've seen a different type of chemistry with these 3 young receivers than I've ever seen with Tom Brady with young receivers. It usually takes a while for a young receiver to really break in with the Patriots. The last pair I can think of go all the way back to Givens and Deion Branch, and that's a while ago. So to see these 3 young receivers come in and seems to really be on the same page with Tom Brady, I will tell you, is encouraging. And then you throw on Danny Amendola into the mix, and Danny Amendola looks, I'm telling you, and we joked about it, you put 83 on his back, and you're going to think it's Wes Welker. It's that close, and the chemistry with him and Brady is probably 10 times it is with these young receivers. He really seems like he's on the same page with Brady. And then if you're looking on the defensive side, which I'm really looking towards, I see a young defense. It's still a young developing defense that has added a couple of veteran pieces. We're talking about Tommy Kelly on the defensive line and adding Adrian Wilson. I like what I see so far, but that's the side of the ball for the Patriots to get back to where they want to get back, and that's obviously the Super Bowl. It's going to be on the defensive side of the ball.
Okay. Now we touched a little bit on what you've liked so far, what you've seen. Let's hit on the other side. What are you most concerned about from what you've seen? Do you know, are they pretty certain, that with the rookie wide receiving core and young receiving core that they can succeed with Brady?
Well, listen, it's one day at a time, one step at a time. So far I'm encouraged by what I've seen, but to say right now that these guys are going to succeed would be really too early to tell. But again, these are the early indications that the offense will move. It won't be the same type of offense that you've seen. The concern that I have right now would probably have to be a tight end. Again, we're talking about Jake Ballard coming in, and Jake Ballard actually looked decent in the first preseason game, but has not looked great in training camp. Again, I think he's still dealing with his injury. Then you have Daniel Fells and Hooman, and again, these are good tight ends. They are good tight ends, but they are not at the level of Rob Gronkowski. And until Rob Gronkowski comes back, the tight ends will be suspect. They're not going to be as bad as people think that they're going to be. But until you get Gronkowski back, that offense will not be as dynamic as it will be when Gronkowski returns.
Okay. Now, the Bills open up with the Patriots week 1 of the NFL season here in a couple of weeks. With the starting quarterback for the Bills unnamed as of yet, with Kevin Cobb and E.J. Manuel, going stiff with the competition. How do you feel that first game will end up with potentially E.J. starting and a little unknown as far as game tape goes in planning, and then also the atmosphere at the Ralph always brings an energetic scene with division rival coming in, being the Patriots. How do you think that game will shape up?
Well, listen, I think it's going to be extremely close, and no matter what the records are, the Bills always, and I mean always, give the Patriots a tough time. It's a divisional game. Forget about the records. I have much respect for the Bills, and then you throw in, like you mentioned, you put in E.J. Manuel into the mix, who really is a different type of quarterback than the Patriots are accustomed to seeing. And listen, what I've seen so far from E.J. Manuel is encouraging for the Bills fans. There's no question about that. And it's funny because the Patriots played against Michael Vick in the first preseason game, and I could see, I could see some of the things that Vick was running in their new offense that the Patriots might be able to. It might help them a little bit when they're facing Manuel. But I think Manuel does offer challenges to the Patriots defense that they might not be accustomed to. And with it being the first game, I mean, it's going to be a tough game for both sides because, again, it could go either way. The Patriots, again, would probably be favored in this game. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Patriots end up losing the opening game because of the matchup. It's an AFC East divisional matchup, and they're not going to be used to what they're going to be seeing on both sides of the ball. New coaching staff, new defense, new offense. Again, there's a lot going on that can factor in who's going to win this game. It's really, again, we're only a few weeks away. It's really up in the air. It's a pick 'em to me.
Absolutely. There's so many unknowns, as you said, so many questions to be answered heading in, and we'll see if some of those questions do get answered after the week is done. Now, with Brady being under center, his career is kind of on the downslope, not production-wise, but as far as how many years he's going to have left in the league. Now, with those years being numbered, do you think there's more pressure on Brady than ever to get back to that winning mentality as far as Super Bowl goes here in the next couple of years before his career ends in New England?
Well, what's funny is that listen, you're 100% right. He is obviously on the downside of his career, but if you ask Tom Brady, he'll tell you that he wants to play till he's 50, which is crazy. I doubt that he's going to play that long. If you're asking me, he's probably got somewhere between 3 to 5 elite seasons left in his body, and I could be wrong about that. It could be less. It could be, who knows? It could be more. We'll have to see. But the thing about what's going on with Brady right now, I don't know if he feels the pressure that he has to win now. I actually think that a plus coming out of training camp is the fact that he's working with new receivers. I know it sounds strange, but it seems like to me that it really has invigorated Brady because, again, last week when when they did these basically they went to Philadelphia and had the joint practices. Brady had a tremendous week of practices. In fact, much better than even in the actual game. And I think the fact that he's working with these young guys, forced to really work with these guys, I think is actually might have been a little bit of a different type of motivational thing with him right now. I don't think he feels that earnestness that he needs to win now. I think that right now he feels that he needs to get on the same page with his receivers. And listen, the Patriots have always taken it one game at a time, so I don't think that he's thinking this is my last shot or I have three more years to go. I think he's really just thinking I need to get on the same page with the guys I'm throwing to.
Absolutely, and we touched on Brady just a little bit there, and the guy who knows Tom Brady very well is a guy that we brought in to be our defensive coordinator and Coach Mike Pettin. With the whole Bills staff basically revamped and the new coaching staff coming in, Coach Pettin kind of has a history of success of getting defenders to pressure Tom Brady, maybe not necessarily sack him, but to add that added pressure throughout the game. And combined with the defensive line talent that's on the Bills with the likes of Mario Williams, Kyle Williams, and Marcel Darius, do you think the Patriots will begin to take the defensive line a little bit more seriously with Coach Pettin and his defensive hybrid schemes that he's going to be bringing into Buffalo?
Well, listen, I think it's going to be a challenge for Brady. Again, to play the Patriots in Week 1 is actually a good situation for the Bills. I got to be honest with you, because again, it's a brand new offense. Again, so many different moving parts. What I think you're going to see from the Patriots, I could be wrong about this, I think you're going to see, especially early on, an emphasis on the running game. And the one thing I will tell you is that this running game has a chance to be very dynamic. I mean, you have two really good running backs in Shane Vereen and Stephen Ridley. And every indication I've seen so far in camp, and also what I saw in the first game, is that these guys are ready to amp it up and take it to the next level. Now, the Bills have even better running backs. But I'm telling you that Ridley and Vereen are going to rival the running backs that the Bills have this year. That's how confident I feel in these two running backs for the Patriots. And what's interesting about Vereen is that, and we've already seen this in camp, we've seen it in a preseason game. You're going to see Vereen at times, as a wideout. You're going to see him as a wideout because he does have that kind of speed, that one-on-one speed to get really, really favorable matchups. And he actually scored on a touchdown in a preseason game against the Eagles. I just think, again, I think you're going to see the Patriots really dial it back to what they have done in years past. I doubt you're going to see the hurry-up. I would be shocked if you see the hurry-up offense. What I think you will see a lot of running, and I think you're going to see a short passing game. And that's going to be different for Patriots fans to see in the very beginning. And again, it's an opportunity for the Bills. Like you said, it's an aggressive defensive line that's going to get in Brady's face. And it'll be interesting to see how he deals with it. Patriots do have a very good offensive line, actually an offensive line that's pretty much intact except for one position. So it'll be an interesting battle. And I will tell you that the Patriots have dealt with very well Mario Williams. So Mario Williams doesn't scare me. Believe it or not, it's the other guys.
Well, yeah, I could see that coming down to that. Even if they don't double team him and stuff at times, there might be times where Mario might struggle getting to the quarterback. But to touch on the little situation that you just mentioned there with the Patriots running game being predominant this year, I can agree with that and attest to that. I don't see Brady throwing 40 to 50 passes per game now with Ridley and Vereen back there. So it'll be interesting to see how much overhaul is going to be happening as far as, where it's going to be concentrated now. Now, let's switch gears just a little bit with Bills as far as their coaching staff goes. We've touched on a couple spots, but we have yet to touch on the head coaching spot, with Doug Marrone being named the head coach in the offseason. What are your thoughts about Doug Marrone and what he brings to the Bills organization as a whole?
I think the Bills finally got it right. I think the Bills finally found their head coach of the future that is probably going to be be as good of a head coach. This is a prediction as Marv Levy, and that's high praise. I think they finally got it right with Doug Marrone, and I'll tell you why. Again, I went to Syracuse, so I got to see a coach who came back and revitalized a program that was basically at the bottom of college football, the very bottom, and he brought it back to life. And what he brought was on defense an aggressive style of defense, and on offense a really dynamic offense that you could say he got from the New Orleans Saints, his years with the Saints. So you put that together, the fact that he's a motivational type of coach that gets the best out of his players, I really think that the future is bright in Buffalo, and I've said this on other shows, and I'm going to back this up when I say this. The Bills will win the AFC East within 2 to 3 years. I truly believe that. And they will become a Super Bowl contender within 5 years if you stay with Doug Marrone. And I truly believe that. The Miami Dolphins are not the future of the division. It's going to be the Patriots and the Bills. I do believe that. When Brady does step aside, then obviously the Bills will have their chance. But I really truly believe that the Bills are the future of the division. I'm talking about like 5 to 10 years down the road. I can see that happening, and the head coach has a great deal to do with that, along with the offensive coordinator, who I think is a young coach that has a bright future as well. So he brought Nathaniel with him, and I'm telling you, he's a very good offensive coordinator that really works well with his quarterback. And I was actually shocked that the Bills did not take Nassib, that they went with Manuel. But now, if you think about it, I think they made the right choice.
Well, you heard it first here, everybody. A Pats guy praising the Bills front office for their coaching hire and the future that's in place. And I can agree with you there. You know, they kind of had a couple coaches in the past that were, you know, mediocre and kind of didn't show that enthusiasm or that willpower that was needed to players. They were almost like a player's coach, more of a friend than a coach than anything, whereas Doug Marrone comes in and it's a complete overhaul. The attitude and adjustments that are going to place, you could see it with all the signage throughout the facility, and just the mentality that the way he runs practices and the way he runs games. You know, you're accountable for your actions, and that's the way it should be. And Doug Marrone is that type of guy. He'll shoot you straight. He's not going to beat around the bush, and I think players respect that, and players need that in order to stay on a straight and narrow and keep going with everything. Now, last question before we get you out of here, Russ.
Sure.
Thank you for joining us again today. Give us a prediction on how you think the division will shake out this year, and do you think the Bills have the best chance to challenge the Patriots as far as the division goes?
Well, it's funny because again, when I was thinking about this at the beginning of the season, and listen, everyone's talking about the Miami Dolphins as the team that could really challenge the Patriots, the Miami Dolphins, because again, they brought in so much talent. My problem with the Dolphins is their offensive line, and then also how will all this talent translate together? How will it all work together? That's my issue with the Dolphins. We'll have to see, and we'll also have to see if their quarterback can step it up from year one to year two. If Tannehill can make a step up, then they could challenge. But I'm telling you, the sleeper of the bunch are the Bills, because I truly believe that there are already pieces in place. It's not the finished product. They might not challenge the division this year, but as you've heard from me, I expect it within a couple of years. I wouldn't be shocked if the Bills go as high as 9-7, 8-8, you know, and are a much bigger factor in the division than they have been the last couple of seasons. Listen, the Bills have flashed the last couple of years, but they haven't had that staying power. I think that you're going to see more of a consistent team rather, you know, throughout the season. I think you're going to see a season that's going to be building and not a season that actually has a crescendo, if that makes any sense. It's like when I look at the Bills, they have their highs and lows. I think that you're going to see more of a consistent team that's slowly building towards the future.
Well, that's definitely something that we appreciate, and we're looking towards the future. Hopefully the future is bright and bold. And as Bills fans all know, we have that optimism every year, no matter what. Even though we have that the longest NFL playoff drought of 13 years. We're always going to have that optimism, and I think the whole staff and everything that they've brought in kind of enlightens just a little bit more. So thanks for joining us today, Russ. Where can all of our listeners find you out on Twitter, and where can they find your work again, just so that they know?
Sure. They can find me on Twitter at Russ_Goldman. Also at Patriots 4th and 2 all together. You can find me there on Twitter. You can also find me on blogtalkradio.com with Patriots 4th and 2, and you can also find my blog on PatsFans.com.
Well, once again, thank you, Russ. We appreciate you taking the time today. Follow in if you want to follow all the Patriots coverage as far as training camp and leading into the season goes. Once again, Russ, we'd like to thank you for taking the time and joining us on Bill Central Radio again. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
Football fans, check out the official T-shirt apparel shop for the Pro Football Central Radio Network. Check out bigfrog.com/Cincinnati. That's bigfrog.com/Cincinnati. You think it, we ink it. They have an awesome 24-hour turnaround time. You can also visit them at their fabulous store over at Anderson Town Center, 7426 Beachmont Avenue, Cincinnati, Ohio 45255. That's bigfrog.com/Cincinnati.
And we're back here on Bill Central Radio, joined here with the co-hosts, joining us again, Del. How's it going, Del?
I'm doing great, man. How you doing?
Doing fantastic. We're on our second guest of the day. We have the Buffalo Bills reporter for ESPN.com. We have Mike Rodak joining us today. Thanks for joining us, Mike.
You bet. Thanks for having me on.
Not a problem. So now we are officially 1 week into the preseason now. How do you see the AFC East shaking out, based on what you've seen so far with 1 week in the books?
Oh.
And do you think the Bills will be able to shake it up a little bit and compete with the Pats?
Yeah, well, obviously it's only 1 week, so don't want to read too much into anything. But the way the Bills looked yesterday, scoring 44 points, certainly it's pretty impressive. Very speedy offense that we saw out of them. I want to wait to see Marquise Goodwin out there, receiver, after his 2 big kickoff returns. But elsewhere in their division, Tannehill, I thought, did a pretty good job down against Jacksonville, who Jacksonville didn't show up for that game, basically. And then, the Jets still have their problems with Geno Smith being hurt now. And obviously the Patriots had a good outing down in Philly. So, it is 1 week. It's too early to read too much into anything, but it's still a decent division, I think we found out.
Absolutely, you touched on it. It is a little early, but as football fans, we all like to talk about anything and everything possible. So now, what move during the off season do you think has really benefited the Bills the most? Whether if it's coaching change, adding a player, or even in the front office.
Well, I think the biggest change is going to be a defensive coordinator with Mike Pettin, a guy who personally I think I respected. I thought those Jets defenses, those back-to-back years they went to the AFC Championship were great, and obviously they kind of got old pretty quickly. They lost Chris Jenkins, Bart Scott got old, etc., and they weren't the same sort of defense. But just the pressure that they put on the Patriots, 2009 I think it was week 2 when they beat them down in New York, and then obviously the playoff game the next year. So it's just personally, I think Mike Pettin is going to change that defense, just again going from let's sit back and see what the offense gives us to let's attack the offense. And I think the question for him is, can he find another pass rusher outside of Mario?
Okay. Now you just touched on the coaching staff just a little bit. Let's hit on the player aspect side. Who do you think will be the Bills' breakout players, both on the offensive side of the ball as well as the defensive side of the ball for the upcoming year?
Sure. Well, I don't know if we want to call C.J. Spiller a breakout player after last year, based on a 1,300-yard season almost. But obviously, we heard Nathan Hackett last week, so he's going to give him the ball until he throws up. And certainly, we saw in the first 2 runs yesterday against the Colts, it was 17 and 15 yards, and then we didn't see much more from after that. But if they're going to stay true to their word and give him the ball a lot, then 1,300 is probably on the low side of what C.J. can give this offense. So I definitely put him in the breakout player category, even though he's certainly on the scene already. And defensively, I like what I've seen out of Alex Carrington. I know people have been pretty high on him in training camp this year, and Obviously, hasn't been the greatest 3 seasons before that for him, but if they need a third player in that defensive line, especially if you're still dealing with injuries to Kyle Williams and Mario Williams, he looked like he's settling there. So we'll see what he can do. It's his contract year. He knows that he's up against the wall. He's certainly a great special teams player. Blocked field goals last year, but this season maybe we'll see more what he can do on defense.
Mike, this is Reid from BillsMafia.com. Thanks for agreeing to come on the show and for taking a little bit of time out of your schedule. I appreciate that.
You bet.
I wanted to ask you a quick question and really just kind of welcome you to the whole Bills blog and Twitter sphere. For the past several years, we've dealt with the ESPN division blog with Tim Graham, and then after that, James Walker. And now ESPN is moving from a division-type blog to, because the NFL is huge and just eats up everything and people can't get enough of it, now apparently they've assigned a blogger to every team. And congratulations, you are with the Buffalo Bills. So I was wondering if maybe you could give us a quick history in terms of what's brought you to this point. Just like I said, this is kind of like a welcome thing. You're new to this whole online community, and maybe you could just give a quick intro and, introduce yourself and go from there.
Of course, yeah. Well, as we were talking about before this call, I'm just like Del. I'm from Mass, so I grew up around Worcester, Mass, and guys can call me a Boston guy from that sense. Went to Providence College in Rhode Island, so if everybody knows Jerry Sullivan from the Buffalo News, also a Rhode Island guy, so I guess I'm not the only New England one who's making the switch out to Buffalo, and obviously Tim Graham as well worked for Boston Herald, so it's happened before where you've seen Boston guys go to Buffalo, and for the last 3 seasons I've covered the Patriots for ESPN Boston, which, as I'm sure all of you know, is one of the 5 satellite local websites for ESPN.com. And doing so, I worked with Mike Reis, who, again, everybody knows him. You see him on SportsCenter, you see him, ESPN Radio, et cetera. And it's great to work with him for 3 years. And like he sort of mentioned, that he goes from being his coordinator in the Patriots coverage to sort of being head coach in my own coverage at the Bills. So pretty excited about that.
That's awesome. And just real quick to clarify, it's hard to tell on these phone calls. That was actually Brian, our producer, who hails from New England. I'm from.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Just want to make sure all the listeners were clear on that. So yeah, I'm a Buffalo, born and bred, and haven't left, and whatever. But anyway, yeah. Thanks for giving us that quick rundown. We're happy to have you, like I said, in this community. Now let's jump back into the game. EJ Manuel is. I've thrown around the term franchise savior, a couple of times on here. We got to watch him. It was kind of, Kevin Kopp was brought in the preseason, but with Kevin Kopp's injury and then the death in the family, he only got one little bit of practice with individual drills this past week on Friday. So we got a really cool opportunity, at least, to see 2 halves of football run by our 2 rookie quarterbacks. EJ Manuel obviously had the first half, and so I just want to ask you, what were your thoughts on that? He had that 2-minute offense towards the end there, and actually it seemed like his headset cut out and everything, and he seemed to handle that. But what were your thoughts on EJ Manuel, given the whole first half of football yesterday?
Right. Well, that was certainly an impressive drive we saw there. I think it was almost 80, 90 yards. I forget the exact number, but just the time, and then that's exactly what a head coach wants in a preseason game, is to have that sort of situation. And as a rookie quarterback, he didn't crap the bed. He went in there and he did what he needed to do. So good for him on that one. I think overall there's still a lot of work to be done with him. Just in that you can see that they kept a lot of the passing game, a lot of running back routes, a lot of tight end stuff, short pattern stuff. That look at the stat sheet, I think it was 15 players who had catches. So they spread it out. They kept it short. I think I heard after the game that Marone said he called up to Hackett and said, it's throw some more long passes here. So the real test for Manuel rather is, can he throw the long ball? Can he? Certainly, he has the strength to do it. Can he be accurate? He's under pressure in a big time game against a better defense than the Colts. We still need to see all that. But as I said today in SportsCenter, we're still looking for that oh whoops kind of rookie moment for him, and he hasn't given it yet because I think he's been pretty solid.
Yeah, we're okay with that in Buffalo. We'll see where it goes from there. But as I don't know if you've seen, there's a popular shirt that it seems like re-released every year, where it goes with every quarterback since Kelly, and it says Collins, and then it's crossed out, and below that it has Van Pelt, and that's crossed out. I'm already getting Georgia messed up, but it's pretty funny. So hopefully it ends at Manuel. So we are excited because honestly, the print was getting pretty small on those shirts. The number of quarterbacks that had to be crossed out. So we're happy about that. Now, yeah. So now on the other side of the ball, I'm sure. I mean, you weren't covering the team last year, but I'm sure since you got the position, you're pretty up to speed with the 2012 season with the Buffalo Bills. How so many of us fans thought that Dave Wanstead was going to really bring more than just a name to the table, but a really solid defensive philosophy. After having George Cortez the 2 years prior with Chan Gailey. What wasn't the case, unfortunately, with Wanstead. But now we have a new defensive coordinator, which we touched on earlier in the interview here, in Mike Patton. Man, I tell you what, there was a lot of pressure yesterday. It was not just the standard 4 lineman rush that we saw all 2012. You think we hit the jackpot with Patton, or what do you think the deal is there? What are your thoughts on that? I guess I know you touched on it a little bit earlier, but
right. Well, I think we saw. I think it was the fourth quarter. You saw Kip Edwards coming in a cornerback blitz. That's kind of a staple of Patton's defense. He did that a lot in New York with like Jim Leonard at safety and Kyle Wilson, who was playing the slot at cornerback. So I remember last season it was the week 4 game in Buffalo, Patriots game, and Buffalo went up 21 something, and then boom, Patriots score 30 something points and win with 50, and then saw later in the season, Seattle dropped 50 on the Bills. So I don't think that'll happen this season. I just think it's a faster defense. It's again a more aggressive defense, and there's those new pieces. There's Manny Lawson, who I think is a serviceable outside guy, and he's had Mario coming back, and we'll see what he can do if he's healthy. And then in the secondary, Stephon Gilmore, I was watching him in practice. Hadn't really my first chance to do that. I thought he's legit number 1 cornerback. So there's a lot to be happy about if you're a Bills fan on defense.
Yeah, we're excited. We are definitely excited. It's been unfortunately, the defense, I've often called it in frustration watching the games, has been the hot knife through butter defense. So it's nice to actually see, a little bit of resistance being put up. So that's it for me. Chris, did you have any other questions?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll go ahead and throw this one out here real quick. We had touched earlier. It's a little early in the season. We're just, 1 week in through the preseason. But as far as the regular season goes and everything coming up, Mike, how do you see and taking a look at the Bills' schedule for this year, what's your prediction on how the Bills will finish up this year, record-wise, and potentially making the playoffs?
Yeah, well, I think making the playoffs obviously would be a big step for this team, especially with the number of rookies they have, and obviously a rookie quarterback, to kind of leave off that list. But I would have expected this year. I'd still expect something in the 5, 6, 7 win range, and it's just because, look, you're going to play the Patriots, you have a chance to beat them week 1, true. I think beating the Patriots at Gillette Stadium is a tough task, and then you're playing the NFC South, which to me is probably the second hardest division in football behind the NFC West. Have Atlanta coming to Toronto, Carolina coming up with Cam Newton. That's a tough offense to face. And you're going to Tampa, and you're going to New Orleans, which are, again, very tough games. You're at Pittsburgh. It's a difficult schedule for this team. It's the NFL. It's every 31 other teams are very good too, and the Bills looked good yesterday. But I think you do have to pump the brakes to sort of look at the big picture and the fact that Manuel is going to take more than 1 year to develop.
Okay. Now, where can all of our listeners, the Bills fans that are listening, catch you on Twitter, just so they can follow your coverage throughout being a Bills reporter for ESPN.com and any interactions and everything as well?
Sure. Right now, you can read me on the AFC East blog on ESPN.com, kind of sharing that space with James Walker for the time being. And on Twitter, you can find me at this one word, Mike Rodak, nice and easy. So hopefully you can find me there and give me a follow. That'd be awesome.
All right. Well, we appreciate you taking the time once again, Mike, to join us on Bill Central Radio. And for those that aren't following Mike on Twitter, be sure to follow his coverage of the Buffalo Bills for the rest of the preseason and leading throughout the regular season. We'd like to thank you for joining us again today, Mike. We appreciate it.
You bet, guys. Thanks for having me on.
And we're back here on Bill Central Radio. Going to go into the next segment and talk about yesterday's game on preseason first game for the Bills against the Indianapolis Colts. What'd you think of the outcome, Dell?
Dude, I don't know about you. I've already got my tickets packed. We are going to the bowl. I am psyched. I'm just going to drive down 90 and hang out in New York. No, dude, I'm just playing. No, it was a fun game, dude. It was fun to watch for once. A preseason game. In fact, I was watching the Bills broadcast. I don't know if anybody else was watching NFL Network. I think they were carrying the Colts broadcast. But Ray Bentley and Steve Tasker made a comment at some point towards the end of the broadcast when they said that this was probably the best performance they'd ever seen by a Bills team, including the ones that they were on, maybe ever, because they've been doing at least for the 5 or 7 years that they've been doing the preseason games for Channel 7, and then including the Super Bowl years when they were both on the team. So it was fun. I enjoyed it. 44 points, set a team record for preseason. Let's not read into it too much, but hey, it happened. You know, everything we saw, all those touchdowns happened. All those players that are in camp every single day or whatever at St. John Fisher, they showed up, and they did, for the most part, very well. That happened, so we can talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And some people are quick to throw out the negatives. They were knocking, EJ was going against the second and third teams, but to be honest with you, he was out there just like everybody else was out there, and it wasn't his fault that he had to play the first half. Unfortunate situation happened with Cobb where he couldn't play in the preseason game, which put EJ in there for at least a half, and then Jeff came in and took over in the second half. So it was definitely a good game, both sides of the ball. I can definitely say I don't think I've ever seen the linebacking core for the Bills so fast in recent years, and that play that Kiko Alonso made in the end.
Oh my gosh, dude!
To knock the ball away.
Oh my gosh!
It was something special. I thought for sure it was a touchdown. All of a sudden, Kiko just knocks in and jars the ball out and saves a touchdown. So.
Yeah, I was flipped over my table and said, "This is not reality. What is going on here? Bills linebackers do not defend tight ends." That was crazy. That was awesome. That's a good tight end. You did. Was that Fleener, or am I just imagining? Or was that somebody else?
I'm not sure if it was Fleener or not, but I definitely know it was a tight end that pretty much ran the seam route right up the middle, and Kiko just said, "Not in my house," and swatted the ball out. So.
Oh man, that was great. Whatever tight end it was, whether it was Fleener, one of their studs that picked up in the draft last year from Stanford, or somebody else. What a great play. Bills linebackers don't do that. Bills linebackers, they just don't do that. I didn't interrupt you, but you are so right on that point.
Absolutely, and I was as shocked as you were when it came to that play. But let's touch base real quick. I know everyone's, kind of praising this a little with E.J. Manuel running the 2-minute drill. I don't know about you, but when I was in camp last week, the 2-minute drill was run pretty proficiently by E.J. Manuel while I was there. He actually ended practice on a deep route to Marquise Goodwin for about 65 yards during practice. So I was interested to see if he could hold that same demeanor as he did in training camp as he did in the game, and not to any prevail that he didn't come out and he proved that he can run a 2-minute drill very swiftly, I thought.
Yeah, well, that's something they've been working on in camp for the past 2 weeks, is the no-huddle, quick-tempo offense. And then on top of that, with the whole 2-minute drill, it's just completely catered to that. One thing that was very nice about that, and everybody's mentioned it on Twitter, over and over again, which it deserves to be, his headset and his helmet went out right at the beginning of that drive. And it seems like that didn't even faze him at all. Part of me wants to think, because it's 2013 and they should have the technology working pretty well, at this point, and they shouldn't have to be having these failures. But like maybe it's preseason for everybody, including the technician guys. But
now,
would it be cool?
I'll throw a conspiracy thing out there. Do you think it was a planned miscommunication where the headset kind of went out and they wanted to see how EJ did on the fly? I'll play devil's advocate there for a second.
No, I was about to make that exact same point. Was that how cool would it be if we found out, in the future, whether it be, next month or 10 years from now, in some kind of anecdote, that this is actually something where Marone said, cut the headset, or Hackett turns off his head. You know what I mean? That'd be funny. I don't think they're throwing their guy to the wolves quite like that, although I think it was at the end of the first half. That was going to be the end of it. So, it was towards the end of the first half. So who knows, but regardless, whether it was choreographed or it was an actual just happenstance, that was nice to see. That was great to see. He kept his poise. He did his job. He did what was required. That was nice to see.
Now, what about Mr. Flash Goodwin? Were you surprised about his kick return abilities and how fast he broke that for a touchdown?
When I went to camp. I've been to camp 3 times up to this point, and I don't think I'm going to be going back up there just because of schedule and everything. But I've been to camp 3 times, and I'm not exaggerating when I say every time I've gone to camp thus far, the best receiver. I won't say the best receiver. The receiver that had the best showing, to my eyes, was Marquise Goodwin. And it's not only because of his speed, which is what he displayed and what we're about to talk about, but his hands as well. This guy is the real deal. As far as I can tell, as a rookie, and after 2 weeks of camp and 1 preseason game, this guy seems to be the real deal. So in terms of this kick return, correct me if I'm wrong, but once he hit like the 20-yard line, you knew that was a touchdown, right? Like as soon as he hit it, your eyes are watching this happen, and you're thinking, in a split second, your brain computes, nobody's gonna touch this guy. Like you just look at the speed at which he's running, and everybody else coming, it's like, oh, this is gonna be 6 points. And then once he hit the 50-yard line, and he had the defenders or special teams guys on the other end coming at him, like you knew that it's like, no, it's not happening. There's gonna be a touchdown. And that's one thing I noticed on Friday as well is he was taking kicks from like 7 or 8 yards deep in the end zone, and I noticed that on Friday. I was like, this dude's a little cocky. This guy is like, it's one thing like when he does it at camp. It's another thing. It's like, dude, 7 yards deep. He's like, I got this. That was just that's cool. I'm hopefully that cockiness doesn't come back to burn us at some point in the season. But yeah, dude, this guy is a pleasure to have on my football team.
Now let's talk about the man who came in the second half and was under center a little bit. We have some fans who may have a little bit of overreaction, as you stated before recapping the game here a little bit, how we were heading down 90 and going down to New Jersey for the Super Bowl. Some people are starting to have Jeff Toole and campaigning for him to start the season as the Week 1 starting quarterback. I think they need to pull the reins back a little bit. But he did have a great show, and I thought came in, commanded the offense, ran the no-huddle offense pretty well, got his reps in, hit his receivers when they were open. Between the two of them, they had a good completions percentage, no interceptions. That is huge for 2 rookie quarterbacks. Granted that, they're going against second and third string defense, but those guys are trying to make the team anyway, and that goes to show for the Bills roster as well. Everyone's out there doing the best they can. But what are your thoughts on Jeff Toole and how he commanded the offense in the second half?
I thought he did a great job. Let me make this absolutely clear. I like Jeff Toole. I like Jeff Toole a lot. Again, I'm not a scout, and so please don't, listener, please don't roll your eyes when you hear me say this, because I'm just a dude that loves football, and I go to camp because I'm excited because football's coming. I'm not there to scout the guys. I can't tell you, every little intricacy of what they're good at. Seeing Jeff Toole at camp, especially the past 2 times that I went there because Kevin Cobb wasn't even practicing except for individual drills on Friday. I like what I saw. He had great showing. He has a great touch on the ball. He, like you just mentioned, Chris, he has a good command of that 2-minute offense. But let me say this. Buffalo Bills fan, listening to this, it is a new era. We have a first-round quarterback. We have the first quarterback that was selected in the draft. We have, for the first time ever, the first player that the team selected in the NFL draft was a quarterback. Even Jim Kelly wasn't the first player selected. It was Tony Hunter, the tight end. I'm not saying this guy's the next Jim Kelly when I'm talking about E.J. Manuel. But Bills fan, it's a new era. You don't have to default to the underdog. Jeff Toole is a great story. I really hope this kid makes the team and stays on the team, whether that be through a practice squad or a third string or even second string or something. Whatever. That's great. I like this guy a lot. But it's okay now. You can take a deep breath, Bills fan. You've got your franchise quarterback. You don't have to root for the scrappy guy. And that's not taking anything away from Jeff Toole at all. But some of the fans I've seen on Twitter the past few days, even after some practices, it's time to tap the brakes, okay? Tap the brakes, guys. We're all excited. We've got a lot of new players on here, a lot of new shiny toys. But when it comes to Jeff Toole, please don't cross my timeline on Twitter saying this guy needs to be the starter. Please.
Well,
that's my take on Jeff Toole.
I got my licks in, and it looks like you got your licks in too. So it's definitely something Bills fans aren't used to. And they, like you had mentioned, they want to go for the scrappy guy. They want to go for the underdog. But the time is now. We got a new face out there, and let's hope that he can, lead us in future years in E.J. Manuel. So it'll definitely be a bright future ahead. Now we have a couple of practices coming up before the next preseason game. What are your thoughts about what the Bills need to show, and potentially Kevin Cobb stepping in and getting in some reps on Friday?
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more from Kevin Cobb against the Vikings at Ralph Wilson Stadium on Friday. I do like the idea of Kevin Cobb on the team, because I've seen a lot of people talking about we don't even need him, cut him, we've got our two guys. And yes, Washington did that with Kirk Cousins and obviously RG3 last year. But I still would like to have, and I know they have coaches and I know they have offensive coordinators, I still would like to have a veteran presence in the film room helping the whichever rookie quarterback ends up getting the job, helping the rookie quarterback break down film. And again, I've never played in the NFL. Hope that's not a surprise to anybody. I've never played in the NFL before. I've never played any college football. Had very little film available in the very short period of time I played high school football. So to that point, I don't know exactly how vital that is, but I'd like to have Cobb around. I'd like to have him in there. I'd like to have a veteran presence in the locker room, and maybe that's more just a catchphrase, #veteran presence or something. But yeah, I don't know. We're definitely going to see a lot more of it on Friday. I don't even know if I was answering the question you asked. But.
Sure, absolutely. And I have to agree with you. Absolutely. I want Cobb on the roster for that veteran presence. Granted, as you had mentioned, RG3 and Kirk Cousins, that's a first round and a fourth round pick, I believe Cousins was. That's not a first and an undrafted free agent making the team. Some people think, as far as Manuel and Toole goes, but I think you need Cobb out there, to push EJ, and I think you kind of saw that in the first week of the training camp practices that were going on. So we'll see what develops here in the next couple of days. See if he can get a little bit healthy and get some reps in against the Vikings. So anything else to add? Anything new going on at BillsMafia.com that you wanted to give a mention about?
Yeah, well, please continue to check out BillsMafia.com. We have a ton of bloggers, like I've mentioned in previous episodes, that are just going ham on this blog. Can we say that anymore? Going ham, is that a thing, or is that is that totally 2011 or 2010? But regardless,
I think it's still going.
Yeah, we got a ton of bloggers putting great work in over there. Please check it out. We got something new. At least one new post a day is what it's turning into. We even have multiple posts most days. We have a good cross section. Blah 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 blah. Whatever. Just go check it out. Also, we have the new wristbands that are available, the new all-white wristbands that we've been selling tons of. In fact, that was most of my weekend this past weekend, was writing addresses on envelopes and putting stuff in the mailboxes. So if you did order one of those, look for it soon. And if you haven't, take a look. Maybe you'll like it. It's got our logo. It's got our Mafia word mark on it. We've had actually a bunch of players talk about how much they like it. We have a picture up there of CJ and Denora Searcy rocking theirs at camp the other night. They loved it. So, yeah. And, of course, patches. The patches you've seen on KissingSusieColbert.com are still available in our store. That turned into more of an ad, but, what the heck.
Hey, man, got to get it out there and, extend the fan base, as you guys like to call it, definitely. And some great merchandise if you guys wanted to check it out and be a part of the movement. Feel free to check out the website. We'd like to, once again, thank Russ Goldman and Mike Rodak for joining us today. Give a little bit of perspective on the Bills and the Patriots situation, and then Mike for taking the time and talking about St. John Fisher Camp, as well as what he thinks the Bills are going to be doing here in the next few years here. So we'll catch you next week, and we'll recap the Vikings game on next week's show.
Thanks for tuning in to Bills Central Radio. For Bills news, updates, stats, highlights, and more, log on to ProFootballCentral.com.
Shout, let's go Buffalo, let's go Buffalo, let's go Buffalo, touchdown, rain, sleet, or snow, let's go Buffalo, let's go Buffalo, let's go Buffalo, defense, rain, sleet, or snow, let's go Buffalo, let's go Buffalo, let's go Buffalo, touchdown, rain, sleet, or snow, let's go Buffalo, let's go Buffalo, let's go Buffalo, defense, rain, sleet, or snow. Okay, new vibe, new feel, new coach, new Bills, red, white, blue steel, hard work, true skill. This year's on you, Spill. LDM, I'm predicting that. Touchdown, Stevie Johnson, swag cooking.